Actually, mini centaurs seem like they would make a lot of sense because you could actually go into taverns and stuff. It's very hard to do that otherwise.
That or you call him a centaurling.
Centaurling? Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Halftar.
Halftar.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Anyway, half cents.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyway.
Don't have any thanks.
Yeah, sorry. So, Alex, a long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, we discussed D&D 3E. Remember that?
Yeah, we did. We talked about 3.5, 3E, and actually, we got a lot of views on that video.
A lot of views, a lot of comments, a lot of people interested in it, and there were a couple things that they were questioning. One of them was about barbarians, and so we did a video a little bit ago about barbarians and how they were implemented, the history of them. And the other thing was about us not really knowing that much about prestige classes.
I didn't touch on them much.
No.
It has been years since I played 3.5.
Yes.
Over a decade, mind you.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't really ever play 3.5, so hitting on something that I have not had to look at and remember anything about in over a decade, with my ADHD brain, it does not function that way. I cannot recall that, you know?
Right. So what I did is I actually wanted to pull something up and just look at prestige classes because they are not the same as subclasses, and they do function differently.
They do.
So I think the one thing that I found really interesting when I was looking into this is that I don't actually have to take prestige classes if I don't want to.
Nope. They are optional. They are essentially what a prestige class was, and I'm sure you're going to get more into it anyways, but since we were talking about it specifically, prestige classes were kind of like advanced classes, if you will. Mm-hmm. It is, you need to meet a certain set of requirements to go into a prestige class. And then the prestige class gives you a set of stuff that the normal classes typically wouldn't. My favorite example from when I played 3.5 was I had a barbarian who then took a couple levels of wizard because he had the high enough intelligence for it.
Nice.
And there is a prestige class, or was a prestige class, known as a rage mage.
Oh, yeah.
And so you have to have, like, rage as a class feature, and you have to have, like, the ability to cast spells of a certain level, I think. And then you can become a rage mage, which basically their core feature is that you can now, instead of being unable to cast spells while enraged and raging as a barbarian, it now lets you cast spells while raging.
Got it.
Which means you've got this big frothy-mouthed barbarian throwing fireballs as they throw a freaking axe in your face.
Perfect. That's great. I love that combination.
Anyways, so they're more like advanced classes.
So it turns out that we were not the first one to really ask or address this, and so I have an article here. It was from D20 Collective. It came out a few years ago, and they actually have a section here where they talk about prestige classes versus subclasses, which I find very very handy.
Happy and handy,
yeah. And that, from my limited perspective, as they say, if you're familiar with 5e or you started there, the concept of prestige classes can be seem overcomplicated. But for the most part, functioning similar to provide further customization for players to characters, but a few major differences. I think we already touched on the first one, that you have to meet requirements to take prestige classes. These vary by the exact class you're going with, but typical prerequisites include the ability to spellcast, the ability to take fighter-specific feats, or levels and ranks in certain classes and skills. The other thing that they're going to get into it later with some of them, is I was interested that there are prestige classes that can apply to different classes. So, like, you have different prestige classes, but they could apply to your, like, a wizard or a warlock or bard, or, that there are multiple classes that are eligible for a prestige class.
For the most part, yes. There are also specific prestige classes that were there. A dwarven defender, for instance, as a prestige class, requires that you're playing a dwarf.
Yeah, I would imagine it does, yes.
There was another one for an elf, I don't remember, I think, that required you were some kind of elf,
Okay, that Okay, yep.
These other requirements is like elf specific, dwarf specific.
Right.
And there weren't a ton of them. I don't believe that required you be a specific race for it.
Sure.
But as you said, there are things that can be from multiple classes.
Sure.
Like, as long as you meet the requirements, like maybe you need a base attack of 5, and then this other thing. And it's like, oh, well, my ranger or my fighter or my barbarian can take it, you know?
Sure. So from the article, this means that you have to work toward prestige classes rather than building them into your backstory at level 1, although you certainly sow the seeds for them there. Yeah, that's the other thing, is that prestige classes you choose to take, subclasses are actually something that you are going to have to take in order to do character development in 5.
Right.
You can change your mind on the way there, or base your selection on events in-game and counted as a reward for your progress so far. Second, of course, you don't have to take prestige classes. Nope, you absolutely don't. Like I said, subclasses are built in, but prestige classes are not. Third, you can take multiple prestige classes. You'd have to check with your DM, of course, but make sure that you meet all the requirements. But unlike 5e, prestige classes can be layered and added on top of each other. You can have as many as you can qualify for. Yep. Yeah. Did you ever try
you can multi-class however you want in D&D, so.
Yeah. And then they also say that finally, when you take prestige classes, you are multi-classing.
Yes.
So that when you level up in a prestige class, you don't take any of the disadvantages that are usually associated with the process in 3.3.5. A slight hit to experience points, for instance, but you do gain only the bonuses of the prestige class. If the hit die, for instance, of your base class is higher, you cannot elect to roll that. You must level as though you are taking a level in another class altogether. The skill proficiencies and attack save bonuses are added similarly. Okay. Yep. So, yeah, definitely a different kind of thing. But I actually thought they gave a few examples of their favorite prestige classes from 3.5.
Rage Mage.
Is there a Rage Mage in here? They do not mention the Rage Mage.
Horizon Walker was fun too.
Oh yeah? So these are the ones that they gave. The Rainbow Servant. I don't know if
you're familiar. Don't know that one.
Oh, they're sworn vassals of Coatls, the mythical and magical rainbow birds who originate from Aztec mythology. So,
okay. I know the bird, I just don't.
Yeah. So this, for instance, requires players to have located a Coatl temple in-game, as well as the ability to cast third-level arcane spells. So it makes it a viable option for wizards, sorcerers, and bards, as well as paladin multi-class characters. So,
okay.
But yeah, you have to specifically have found a temple before you can even take that one. Yeah. There's a master specialist that are spellcasters who have perfected a single type of magic beyond even the usual favored spells and types among wizards. So they don't have very much versatility or variety, but are deadly within their own school. That kind of reminds me a little bit of like when wizards have to take on a specific school of like, illusion or something like that.
Yeah, a focus school.
Right. So the prestige class requires your character to already be specialized in a specific school of magic, as well as casting at least third-level spells, which limits it to wizard characters, either played straight or multi-class.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Uncanny Trickster. The ultimate in terms of unpredictability, with a seemingly endless catalog of underhanded and unexpected tricks that they can pull out at any given situation. Sounds like a bard and or
rogue.
It says that it has...
I assume sneak attack is a thing you need. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you. It has loose requirements, only a minimum number of skill ranks and tricks. This makes it popular with rogues, bards, and rangers. There are other similar prestige classes that are better geared toward either combat or spell-casting characters. So, yeah, you need a few ranks and skills in order to do that, but you probably already know what those are. It's Yeah.
Sleight of hand.
Pickpocketing or something like that, yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Mindbender. Very cool. Mindbenders are sort of like arcane versions of psionics, focusing on their ability to charm and mind control. They bypass the subtle lines of morality and ethics of enchantment magic and go straight for the manipulation and mind control. Fun abilities like telepathy, increased charm spells, mental compulsion, eventually going so far as to make their domination of a creature's mind permanent, make up a mind bender's arsenal. That seems OP.
Yeah, a little bit.
You just have a bunch of thralls under your command. It requires the players to have an already considerable magical ability worked into their character, which must include some ability to charm. It also requires that the character not be good aligned for good reason. Warlocks, wizards, and sorcerers are most likely to become mindbenders. I figured that there was an alignment requirement for that. You can't be a good aligned character. And then, of course, you have the bestest. The Halfling Outrider. While some...
Yeah, they're riding war dogs.
Yeah, while most halflings are peaceful, hearth-loving people, their semi-nomadic culture frequently puts them in some danger. Halfling Outriders are their protectors and guardians specifically trained to ride out and watch for such trouble. So, as you can expect, they are mounted, highly adept at fighting from the back of their dog or pony. You can have a pony too. Their feature and abilities include several tricks for this, including the ability to stand up straight and fight while riding alongside alertness and survival feats and abilities. As you might expect, it requires that you be a halfling, as well as have the mounted combat and mounted archery feats, and several survival-oriented skills. So fighters, rangers, and druids are excellent choices if you're going to be an outrider.
If you're going to be a halfling.
If you're going to be a halfling and an outrider. Yeah, you gotta...
Yeah.
Can you imagine having a halfling druid that also rides on a pony? That'd be cool.
Oh, they can be their own pony.
Yeah, they could be their own pony. I don't know if that... Does that work? I guess so.
Can I be like a half centaur halfling that has this?
Then you could be your own... Yeah, probably. Yeah. That might work. Yeah. I guess the question
we actually call that a mini centaur.
A mini centaur?
Like a miniature pony.
Oh, mini, yeah.
But it's also a halfling, so it's like a mini centaur, because usually centaurs are huge.
That's true. That's true. That's fun. That's fun. It's fun. Actually, mini centaurs seem like they would make a lot of sense because you could actually go into taverns and stuff. It's very hard to do that otherwise.
That or you call them a centaurling.
Centaurling? Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Halftar.
Halftar.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Anyway, half cents.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyway.
Don't have any thanks.
Yeah, sorry. Do you see something like this being applicable in a 5e? Like, what if people said, I really like prestige classes instead of subclasses? I would think that you would still have to have them utilized in a similar fashion to subclasses, though, because they're so ingrained in the 5e system, where at a certain level I get these specific things. So
I think you could. I think it would be fun if you did. The issue I see with that is the fact that 5e has you tapping out at 20th level.
Yeah.
As much as the prestige classes usually were only 5 or 10 levels,
sure,
I don't really see a character necessarily wanting to do a prestige class and miss out on some really keystone class abilities. I think you could do it, but you'd miss out on a bunch of those capstone and just important abilities of being like a rogue, for instance.
Yeah. I'd like to see a version maybe where if you were taking prestige classes, maybe you could get something for prestige classes after level 20, like maybe those would be the levels beyond if it was implemented in 5, where
sure.
And that might not be based on your class or anything, but by your prerequisites in similar fashion.
Yeah. I feel the issue with that, however, is that how many campaigns do you know of that go and hit level 20 and above?
Unless they have specifically started their characters at that, probably very few. I mean, I guess the better question is how many campaigns do you think have gone from literally level 1 to level 20?
I'm sure plenty, but they are less common than I feel ones that don't.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think an interesting thing you could do instead would be you've played Diablo 3.
Yep.
The Paragon system.
Mm-hmm.
I almost feel like finding some way to implement something like that, where you can get reward points into things, maybe not permanent like strength boosts or anything like that, but like some kind of, not a prestige class, but like some kind of system where you could just be like, yeah, I'm gonna add a point into this here, a point into that there, because of not level necessarily, but met like milestones or something that could just be like, all right, it's not a prestige class, but it does augment or change or give you little bonuses here and there. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, well, Borderlands has implemented a similar system to that for many, many installments, where basically when you tap out, and usually after you've completed the main quest, you still do get experience, but it goes into your guardian ranks or your badass ranks or whatever, and you can choose to get smaller bonuses that go off of that. That might work. That might work.
I don't know.
Yeah. I think it wouldn't be as special, though, because these seem like very specific kinds of characters that are being generated. And not just like, hey, you got a 1 to your strength now. Or, you know, I got a skill point. I do 5% better at lockpicking. Like, it feels like completely changing the character type. Maybe that's something that you could opt into, but it doesn't, it's more of a lateral move. Like if you said that I'm going to be a wizard, but maybe I'm going to be a master specialist wizard, it changes how your leveling works for the wizard class, and what you get. Like maybe I don't get better at everything, I get specifically better at certain kinds of spells. And that it gets built into the leveling system itself. Maybe it's just not compatible, but it's an interesting thing to think about. Do you think that the subclass system or the prestige class system was a better way to handle character development?
I think both have their merits.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to say the subclass system.
Yeah.
Because more people interact with that than they do, or did, I want to say, than with the prestige class.
That's true. Because, like, even we had trouble, like, really articulating what the prestige classes were, and I don't know if a lot of people even bothered to discuss it or take them. Because it's, as we said, it's optional. So, subclasses, on the other hand, are built specifically into the character design. So you have to interact with what you're going to do with the subclasses.
Right. So I like that system just more because it means out of the gate you're getting more of the character customization to make your character different. I know that people will say, oh, but in 3.5 you got to customize your skills any way you really wanted. And I understand that. But at the same time, a fighter was a fighter. A rogue was a rogue.
Yeah.
And in 5e, you can have, like, at least 3 different kinds of rogue. They function similarly, but they have different specialties. So you could still do that before, but now it's a more defined way to do that. So
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. No, but I do like the idea of having systems that people are going to interact with. Like, I don't mind necessarily if they have some cool system and maybe people engage with it if they do or they don't want to, but I have liked subclasses and being able to figure that out, because when I start characters, I know that I'm going to have to pick one. And so I start thinking about what makes sense to the character to pick as a subclass. And I think that also helps to customize your character out of the gate. One rogue to another, one bard to another, one wizard to another. So I don't know. I think subclasses were a good move overall, but I think that it's interesting to look back at the prestige classes and what they tried to achieve and how they tried to modify characters. I kind of wish that they could implement them in some way. Maybe if they took the general concept of some of them and they applied them to feats you could take in the game. Because when you upgrade, there's the point where you can upgrade either your stats or your feats. And so, if we look through it, actually, there's probably some feats that are similar to some of these prestige classes. But that might be a way around it, because you have the versatility of taking them on if you have the requirements. Something to think about. But, well, anyway, we just talked about some 3.5 stuff, so you know people are going to watch this. So if you are watching this and you have any other input in how you feel about prestige classes, or the debate between prestige classes or subclasses and what you like better, please tell us in the comments down below, and we can continue this conversation a little bit more, since we're going to get one D&D and they're going to change everything around on us yet again. So,
hooray!
Now we got to learn a whole new thing. Oh no, subclasses are going to be in that, so we know that.